All right, and we are here again, and we are back again. As always, I'm Matt.
I'm Drew.
And this is the Back Again podcast. This is the only movie review show where we take a sequel from the past and find out if, in fact, it is worth going back again. We are on the second half of our action movie sequel list, and we have a special guest today, a real expert in this franchise of what we're going to be doing. So before we reveal it, let's introduce our special guest, which is Louis Diaz. Louis, say hi.
What's up, guys? How's everybody doing?
Oh, doing good. How about you?
Doing good. Pretty excited about this.
We are doing the follow-up to the 1995 Bad Boys, and we are doing Bad Boys 2. And Louis, you're a big Bad Boys fan.
You could call me a bad boy.
Bad Boys 2 comes out in 2003. It's once again directed by Michael Bay. It's got a budget of $130 million. It's got a box office return of $273.3 million. It's starring Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, Joe Pantoliano, Gabrielle Union, Teresa Randall, and Jordi Moya. Bad Boys 2 picks up 8 years after the events of the first Bad Boys, where Marcus and Mike find themselves facing off against a Cuban drug smuggler with Miami police in his pocket. The heat gets turned up when the DEA get involved and a family member gets taken, forcing the boys to ride one, in quotes, last time together. So I think a good place to kind of start with talking about this movie is kind of getting the good stuff out of the way early, because I think collectively we would all agree on what the positives are of the movie, so we can kind of knock that out quick, right? Performances, obviously really good with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. The action, a portion of the action is good and entertaining and stuff. And also it's just like, it's just a high energy franchise. Like you don't really get bored too often within these movies for the most part, I would say.
Yeah, agreed. Even like the down parts outside of the action, it's just like comedy after comedy, especially when it's just Martin and Will, that they're just drawing back and forth.
Yeah, it's just like little bits that they're doing in between. It's like, here's an action set piece, and then we'll have them driving in a car or sitting like outside with the family, and they'll do like a 15-minute bit or like a 6-minute bit or something.
Well, at the beginning of Act 2, the bits are longer because we got to establish more.
Yeah.
But yeah. I could appreciate that a lot, especially considering, like, I think we saw something kind of similar with Too Fast, Too Furious, where we're trying to keep the attention between the set pieces.
Yeah.
And Too Fast, Too Furious did it by shooting these, like, dialogue scenes, like action scenes almost.
Yeah.
And just, like, the camera angles. And this, they at least paid attention to the writing. They have more focus on the actual script than I feel like whoever wrote Too Fast, Too Furious did.
Yeah.
And Michael Bay can play with that, and I guess more so Martin and Will can too.
Well, keep in mind, it's not like these scripts are like game-changing or amazing. Like, these are pretty by-the-book action movies, especially when you consider all the other types of action movies that we've done on the list. This is almost like if a computer had to make an action movie and they kind of ran it through, but what elevates it is probably just Will Smith and Martin Lawrence to a certain degree, because you can write bad lines of dialogue, but Will Smith and Martin Lawrence can kind of sell those bad lines better than like maybe Paul Walker and Tyrese could in Too Fast, Too Furious.
They also have insane chemistry, Martin and Will.
Yeah, so overall, like, not to kind of spoil away with how we're going to vote it, but, we can kind of get the positive stuff out of the way first, and now we can kind of get into some nitpicky things about it. And I think a good place to start would be talking about this plot. So the plot of the first movie is pretty simple. A guy steals a bunch of heroin. He's got like 4 days or 5 days to sell the heroin to another drug lord or something like that.
Ticking clock.
Yeah, ticking clock, and the boys have to go get that. Whereas in the second movie, the plot is a lot more, like, convoluted maybe, but there's just a lot more plot in this movie. So then when you have like these kind of side gags or these cutaways, they're not really subplots that help contribute to the plot. They're really just kind of throwaway things that are like character things. Because in the second one, we have the plot with the drug dealers, and then we also have a storyline with Marcus wanting to retire, and he's getting sick of working with Mike and all the killing that he does. And then on top of that, we have another subplot where, because we get introduced to Gabrielle Union, who's Marcus's sister, and she's also got a stake in the plot, but then she's also got a subplot with dating Mike and having a relationship with Mike and them not telling Marcus.
That's more like
a
runner. That's more like a comedy runner that has like 3 beats and then it's done.
Yeah, it's just like filler, is basically what I'm kind of saying. So it's interesting because when you think about that first movie, the bad guy doesn't really like say a lot. He's like, what was he, like a German or something like that?
Yeah, German or Dutch or something.
Yeah, but every time we cut to him, he's only got like collectively like 5 lines of dialogue. And they kind of do the same thing in the second one where every time we cut back to this Cuban bad guy, he's just like, God, I kept thinking about all these throwaway scenes where we cut back to him just for him to yell or do some kind of like religious speech or whatever. Like, this is my town. Like, I'm God. Or like, get this Jesus picture off my wall. And every time we cut back to him, he's just telling us like, there isn't an actual ticking time clock in the second one, but they try to make you feel like there is because they keep cutting back to the bad guy who's just dishing out exposition of what he needs done next.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only clock that you could technically say there is that they only have a certain amount of time until this big shipment goes and they're trying to catch him by this.
Yeah, that the ticking clock is still there. It's just in a different place.
Well, there's multiple.
What they do when they're cutting back to the villain is they're just I feel like that's them trying to raise the stakes by showing how like unstable he is. Mm-hmm. But the villain's not. I don't think he's a good actor.
No, he's not. He's very...
So it doesn't come across that way. It comes across as almost like distracting filler.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in the first one, they literally it has to do with kind of one shipment or one deal or kind of catching one big kind of like exchange, right? In the second one, there's multiple drops that they either mess up or they like it opens up with a drop that they get wrong, right? And then there's a second drop later with Gabrielle Union that goes wrong again. And then there's a third drop, right? And then after all of those 3 drops, then our final like climactic kind
drop.
It's not really a drop, it's a pickup of Gabrielle Union, right? So
okay, I see the very end.
Yeah. So it's like 3 drops and then a pickup, right? Whereas in the first one's really just about 1 drop. So it does that thing with sequels where it just like it doubles down on everything or it makes kind of more of everything because 2003, baby, you know, we gotta raise the stakes some way.
At least they have the decency to wrap a subplot around it with Gabrielle Union's character. I feel like it's a mixed bag when it comes to side characters, when it comes to these action movies, especially female side characters.
Yeah.
And she was one-dimensional, but still like very one-dimensional but developed, if that makes sense. She's either, when she's not just having to move the plot forward because that's kind of what her character is designed to do, then like are her moments to shine.
Yeah.
But for the most part, she just has to keep driving the plot forward.
She's only got really 2 things to talk about. It's either Mike or the DEA stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she doesn't have time for her own character. It's only the plot or Mike.
Yeah.
That was one of my slights with the Gabrielle Union character, how she was written, is that they kind of made her seem like this was her first week on the job. Like she was very scared in a lot of situations. When if you're put into an undercover position with something in this big, you're not like, this is not your first couple months at the DEA. Like you're pretty established.
Yeah, and there's kind of like a bullshit throwaway line that because Marcus is so hard on everybody in this freaking movie, but he says something to her like, oh, they only hired you because you look good in a bikini. But then they never challenge that, so it almost feels like that's true, which is kind of fucked up.
They make her such like a damsel in distress. Like she doesn't have a real badass moment like where she
takes out those Haitians and stuff in the car, in the SUV.
Yeah, she shoots them when she's in the car, like that's fine. But she looks scared throughout the whole time when she's doing it. It's not like she doesn't seem in control of that situation at all.
By far the best line that she has in that movie is when and you know what I'm talking about, yeah. She's on the minefield and they're like, everybody throw your guns. She's like, okay, I'm gonna toss the gun right now, right next to the landmine. She like tosses it.
Yeah, that like adds to it. That adds to like how bad she is. Like she would literally give away her tail. But like when I was watching it, I was like, this is almost the writers being like, our audience is so dumb watching this movie, we're gonna literally spell out what we're doing to them. Like that's what that feels to me.
Well, no, we showed the iguana stepping on it and blowing up, and now we'll have her say it. It could have been kind of interesting if Mike was in love with her, but she wasn't down with Mike. And
if they had flipped that, yeah.
Yeah, because the whole, like, you know, the only person that really gets an arc that they kind of toss away at the end is Martin Lawrence's character, right? Because Marcus enters the movie like he wants to retire, all this kind of stuff. Obviously, then the whole mission gets more personal for him, and he's able to find, like, you know, there's good setup and payoff in this movie, the same way that, like, with Lethal Weapon 1 and 2, how they kind of set up things and they pay him off. But they end the movie with Marcus just tossing his paper. It's like a throwaway line in the post-credit scene, right? So we finish the movie, and then there's this post-credit credits scene where they're in the pool. And he's like, hey man, like keep talking it up and I'll go pull those transfer papers out of the garbage and I'll glue them together. He's like, man, I wish you would, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, okay, I guess he's just not going to retire.
I mean, they had to set up for a third one eventually.
And let's say this, one last kind of positive that I will say about the movie is, you know, we always look for these sequels to have a bigger world or to have at least some kind of continuation with the first one. And the fact that this takes place 8 years after the first one, they actually stay true to that, right? So all of Marcus's kids are older. You know, they don't kind of shy away from the fact that it's been 8 years, where I feel like other sequels, you know, it's only been 1 year after the fact, or it's like the next season after the fact. And it's like, no, they really kind of stayed true to doing a continuation and making a bigger world and just giving these characters kind of new things to adapt to, even if they are like, you know, cliche kind of filler things too.
Yeah, I really like that they brought back John Sally. And in the first one, he was like a prisoner that they had arrested and they were using him. And then they hired him by the second one. And he's like working in the police station.
I was going to say, it's nice how the world seems to develop in those 8 years. Are there any like real moments where it shows like those two characters, Marcus and Mike, have developed? Or is all their development contained to just the two movies with nothing in between?
Well, like, that's the thing, because their whole shtick is that Marcus is annoyed with Mike. And it's really a lot nicer when they're getting along in the movie. But this movie, there's a lot of him just being mad at Mike.
But I guess he's pushed to the edge, because at the beginning of the movie, he's considering retiring. So I guess there is some growth insofar as Mike's been getting on Marcus's nerves the whole time.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot of murdering, basically.
Oh, that's true, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in terms of just like the physical growth, I guess, like Marcus all of a sudden has this great house by the water. And so they've definitely advanced in their careers a lot, because they also are in like a specialized unit. It's not just a narcotics unit anymore. It's TNT now.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that scene. Yeah.
Well, he was also, you were asking about that, Drew, because you were like, look at the way that they're dressed. Aren't they like do they dress like even from like the first one? Like, are they?
Well, the first one made sense because you said they were detectives.
Well, but they're both like, they're detectives in both of them and stuff. But as far as like their wardrobe goes, I guess when you're a detective, you can kind of wear whatever you want. But they really doubled down in the second one with like, you know, I mean, even Martin Lawrence comments on it. He's like, damn, like, what are you, like a model or something like that? And then Will Smith's like, oh, I like to look good. Like, don't hate the player, hate the game, which was okay to say in 2003 because it was still fairly brand new.
I mean, it's just funny, like how much money can they possibly make? I know that they give the excuse with Mike that he has an inheritance. He's a trust fund baby, but Marcus has like one of the nicest houses in Miami. And he's a sergeant. He's a sergeant in the police force.
And his kids are still giving him crap for having like an above ground pool.
Yeah. And they live on the water.
Yeah.
And there's a boat there. Like when they do one of the zoom outs, when they pan out, there's a boat next to their house. Like that was their boat.
Well, it's just like, you know, Martin Lawrence's character, he's just so mad about everything. And I understand you have to kind of give, you know, these characters kind of one-note tropes and like, you know, especially when it's a comedic performance, like to really like stretch it out. But I just feel like they really don't do anything with Will Smith's character as far as like his growth or his arc or anything like that. At least within he probably has a better arc maybe in the first one, kind of. But in this one, he's really just, you know, he's
I think Gabrielle Union's his arc.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's showing that he's not a playboy anymore. Like he's ready to settle down with one woman. That's his entire growth. Even though that growth happened over the 8 years between the movies, obviously, because we just come into it with him dating her. It's not like he laid down some other woman to be with her.
Well, how about that whole scene after the opening battle, after Marcus gets shot and they're in the helicopter and they're talking about therapy. And it's like, yeah, Mike hooked up with his therapist. So is he dating Gabrielle Union at this time when he's banging this therapist?
Well, it was like, that was like 8 years that they're covering.
Yeah, because they say in the movie, he's like, Captain Howard made me do therapy after I shot all those people. So it's not therapy that happens after that incident. It's therapy that happens before. We just don't know how far before.
Okay. Because for me, it's just this thing where they're trying to have their cake and eat it, where he's like still like a ladies' man, but he's changing for Gabrielle Union. But we never really see that change with Gabrielle Union. We just see that now Gabrielle Union also thinks that he's hot.
And he's like, he's not playboying anymore because, yeah, I think the only time they do the womanizing jokes is through flashbacks.
Yeah, and part of me when I was watching it this time was like, oh, maybe this is a reference to Bad Boys 1, like after he shot all those people at the airport, because he literally says that. But then I'm like, but they didn't do anything to like make it look like he's younger Will Smith like 8 years ago. It was like an outfit that he's wearing in this movie, he's wearing in that therapy session.
And that, as a good kind of transition now, we can kind of talk about Michael Bay a little bit, and we don't have to go too long into this, but the first Bad Boys is Michael Bay's directing debut. And between the two movies, I actually think that he directs the first one a lot better, right? Because, and maybe this is just an editing thing, right? But the first one at least has wider shots, and you can, more establishing shots, and you can actually see for the most part what's going on. And this second one, Jesus, it is just like shaky cam all over the place. And every time somebody's shooting bullets or, driving or whatever, we cut to like, and this is, pure Michael Bay-ism, right? Like getting coverage of like 9 different angles of 9 different reactions and then just cutting to each of those to death. To the point where when we were doing that whole, the Haitians infiltrate the deal with Gabrielle Union, and then they're taking the cars on the highway, and then they're releasing the cars from like, the bed or whatever, and they're flipping on the highway and stuff. I turned to you, I was like, do you know anything? Like, where is everyone right now? Can you tell?
There's no spatial awareness.
Yeah, not at all. But I mean, that's basically what happens in all of Michael Bay's movies from here on.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's what's interesting about it, right? Because the first one, like, actually, it's still edited like really choppy, and it's trying to like keep your attention like every 5 seconds, but at least it's a little bit more competent. Whereas in the second one, it's just, I mean, we opened the movie with that. Whereas in the first one opens up on like the Bad Boys song, right? So they're kind of telling you from the start of this that this is going to be like a techno edited movie.
I would honestly give him the benefit of the doubt and say that I think it was a times thing.
Oh, for sure.
Where you had more, because, the first one was 90s. You had more movies directed just like that in the 90s. And then at the turn of the century, they became all choppy.
Yeah. Not only that, just like look at the look of these two movies, right? Like the first one looks like a traditional action movie, but when we're in the 2000s, especially 2003, there is a shine to this movie. It's almost like he took the cameras, grabbed some like KY jelly, and then smeared it over the lens of the camera.
This movie definitely has more like individual scenes that you'll remember off the top of your head than the first one does.
They definitely attempt to have more serious moments in the second one, especially when we get to that, reveal that Gabrielle Union's been taken, and we, Marcus goes into the room and we get the famous quote of we ride together, we die together, bad boys for life. But I think that there are better serious conversations in the first one, right? Because it's just paced better in that one. Whereas in this one, there's so many different, like there's almost 3 set pieces just in regards to tone, where we have action stuff, we have comedy stuff, and then we have serious stuff. But there's no really like strong connective tissue in the middle. So you'll get a super dramatic scene with like Marcus and Will doing the bad boys for life, and they hug and they cry. And then right after that, we get our badass scene where all the soldiers come in. They're like, you look like you're about to do something stupid. We want in.
Yeah, it was funny because they don't show any of them enough. I mean, the guy with the long beard and the other guy and the 2 Spanish cops, like they show them during their raid of the mortuary before like the DEA shows up. But the only guy that's part of the DEA in that scene is the guy talking, saying like, "You look like I don't know you. You look like you're about to do something stupid." But then the rest of those guys are all Miami cops, but they're all looking as if they agree with what he's saying. Like, we don't know you, but you look like you're about to do something stupid.
Well, it's like those DEA guys actually have stakes for why they want to go save Gabrielle Union, because she's part of their crew. Well, they're responsible.
The officer's stakes is that they're also officers.
I know, but I mean, even to the point where, the captain then, when they're at another like kind of airport hangar, the captain shows up, was like, "I got some spies for you as well."
But the best was how he says it. He's like, from my buddies down at the CIA, and don't tell them, or he's like, and don't ask them. They're spies. It's like, what?
Well, it's amazing that the captain has even kept his job for this long, because he goes against orders twice. He goes against it in the first one, right, when the internal affairs is there, and she's like, all right, we always have that moment where she's like, all right, you guys are off the case. And then he makes like a secret phone call, and he's like, we're going to stay on the case.
That's how he says it?
Yeah.
Stay on the case.
And then in the second one, it's not that they're off the case, but they're, in Cuba. So they have no jurisdiction to go over there. But then he just ends up like getting a bunch of like guys to go help him anyway. You know what I mean? So he's always going against like his orders, but then he's always reminding people that he's the boss and that his ass is on the line. It's like, your ass isn't really on the line. You've been able to do all these missions. And we don't even know how many missions in the 8 years gap that he's also gone against and like helped them do as well.
maybe these are the only two like worthy missions they've been on in 8 years, and that's why those are the two movies that have been made.
I brought you a little care package from my friends over at the CIA. They want to help. And don't ask me. They're spies.
I can only imagine that this was a nightmare to edit, because not only is there all this additional footage and these scenes, but going back to the connective tissue, there's no like transitional stuff. And the one big scene that I turned to you and I was like, this is so weird, is Marcus is they just got Michael Shannon out of prison, and they're going to check out one of these boats at night, and they're doing kind of like a stakeout. The same thing that they did in the first one with Tay Leone, where they're staking out a boat again. But we have the point of this scene is that, you know, Gabrielle Union's going to confess to Marcus that her and Will have been dating for, you know, they said like they've been on like 5 dates and we're seeing each other now and stuff, right? That leads to a huge confrontation between Marcus and Mike, where they're getting at each other's throats. And then it's almost like, you know, the AD or somebody on set that day was like, hey, we got to get back to the plot. So Gabrielle Union's like, would you guys stop fighting? Like, we got to get back to the plot.
Well, it was like they were on like a mission.
Yeah, and then Will Smith just says like, we'll handle this later. And it's like, what is this scene? Like, is there no, can you not put this argument somewhere else in the movie? Like right in the middle of when they're staking out something?
I mean, they talk loud during every like secret mission, even when they're in the mortuary, like sneaking around with the bodies, and they're literally just yelling at each other about like Marcus is throwing up and like screaming like this is disgusting, and Will is like screaming at him to shut up. Like it's like this place didn't seem that big from the outside or the inside when they're walking through the halls. And that's before you even put in the fact that they put these giant black cameras out in the most lit hallway and nobody notices them.
And then the last thing of like kind of one of my favorite dumb things that are in the sequel is that they just replace the two Latina officers from the first one, right? So we got two guys that are giving shit to Marcus and Mike, and you know, they're kind of getting a little like racy about it. But in the second one, since the sex, the race, everything's dialed up to 100, we just replace the two Latina officers with two more Latina officers. And then there's this whole scene. It's another one of these quick little transitional scenes where it's like the four of them in a room, and he's like, oh, hey, we're going to go get some food. You guys want some chicken or something like that? And then Marcus and Mike say something back to him. And then they just kind of, I think like the captain comes in or whatever. They're like, all right, let's get back to work. And then I'm like, what's the point of that scene? Why did we even have that?
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, they just dialed that relationship up to 100 in the second one with two completely different people.
It's like we can distract the audience from not noticing these are different characters if we just make them louder.
It's like they dialed everything else up to 100, and then they dialed the transitions down to like 0.
And then the last kind of thing, because we always talk about the budget and the box office on this podcast, this is definitely going to be one of the more successful sequels that we do just as far as box office goes. So the first one that comes out in 1995 has got a budget of $23 million and a box office return of $141.4 million, like I was saying. And then Bad Boys 2 in 2003, it's got a budget of $130 million, and then it's got a box office return of $273.3 million. But just even in regards to, because this is kind of similar to Rambo First Blood Part 2, where it made more money, but critically it got less, it didn't get received as well, right? And just to go back, you know, in 1995, it gets a 42% on Rotten Tomatoes, that first Bad Boys, because it's not an amazing movie, but the second one, Bad Boys 2, has a 23% on Rotten Tomatoes. So they never even broke the 50% mark in this franchise.
Well, what does the third one have?
Doesn't matter. But they've you know, they're both successful movies. They made a lot of money. So it's more interesting on this one because people are very big fans of this franchise, and including myself, and I'm sure you too, Louis. And we acknowledge that they're not the best written movies or that they're even like amazing movies, but there's still something entertaining about them.
Yeah. I think, and especially why people remember the second one more is because there's, like we said before, there's more of those memorable moments. Like you can go up to somebody and be like, have you seen Bad Boys 2? And they'll be like, yeah. And then you could just be like, who the fuck are you? And like do the whole Reggie scene with them. The best part, I guess this is a fun fact from Bad Boys 2. They didn't tell that kid, Reggie, they didn't tell him what was going to happen. Like there was nothing written in the script. And like on set and stuff, Will and Martin would just ignore him all the time. And then when they got to that scene, he's like genuinely scared at what's going on. And like all his movements are just genuine. Like when Will takes out the gun and like points it right in his face and he starts like dodging it. And that's just him being terrified.
You a virgin?
Yes.
All right, keep it that way. Ain't gonna be no fucking that night.
Baby, the red shirt's nice. I like that. You guys have a good time.
You ever made love to a man? No. You want to?
So as always on this podcast, we ask 3 questions that lead to a final vote of, is it worth going back again? And the first question is, does it work as a sequel? And Louis, since you're our guest, you can start off.
So I went back and forth on this a lot because, yes, they do bring back like the kids, and there's some recurring characters. It's the same wife. There are a lot of, like, the captain comes back. There's a lot of characters from the first one that are in it, like the main cast. But there's so many of those like side characters that didn't come back at all in the second one. Like the guy at the front desk for Will's apartment complex just doesn't get any screen time in this, and he was super funny in the first one. He was like part of the comedic relief in that. And just the fact that there is zero mention of the first movie or events that happened in the first movie, or like even a throwaway line of like what happened with Tia Leone or something. Especially because at the end of the first one, they like subtly hint that like Tia Leone and Will Smith and Mike are gonna like start hooking up, at least, because she's talking throughout the whole movie about how hot he is. And then in the second one, there's just no mention at all. Like, I'm not going to bring up the third one, but at least in the third one, they mentioned Gabrielle Union, like that there was a breakup. So to me, it's a standalone movie. Like they could have made this movie as the first one and then gone on from this, and I don't think we would have lost much.
I want to say that it does work as a sequel. It's louder than the first one, but I don't think that's necessarily to like its detriment. I do honestly, just because I remember just ragging so hard on the last few movies about the lack of character development for the protagonists. The fact that there was some here is really going to affect my judging. And the fact that they do build on Will Smith's character and Martin Lawrence's character, and they establish that they have changed, they establish that they continue to change. The changes aren't dramatic or anything, but they're still learning characters. That really saves it for me. The action is more. It's not necessarily better. And honestly, yeah, like the addition of the side characters, Gabrielle Union, Reggie. Yeah, I mean, it was just, I think it was just one of the better sequels we've seen in the last few that we've done. And I think part of that goes towards it as a sequel itself. I understand what you were saying about it being standalone, but I do think that the development does add to the sequel. Whereas it would be different if they only worked on their own, but the fact that they can work alone or together makes me give it a check.
This one is not harder for me to vote on, but it is a little bit more interesting because when we talk about sequels on this list and kind of everything you were kind of saying, Drew, about we want character continuation, we want a bigger world, and we want kind of higher stakes. And the foundation is there to do all 3 of those. They don't necessarily execute it 100% though, right? Gabrielle Union's character, we're going to put her in the movie a lot and we're going to make her part of the plot to make her feel like she's doing something, but we don't really know how she feels about her job, how she feels really about Will Smith. The only reason why she likes Will Smith is because he's hot.
It's the illusion of development.
Yeah, so that's a great thing right there. This second movie has the illusion of development, but it's not so kind of empty or hollow to where it's like distracting. I just notice it only because we're doing so many sequels on this list. So I do think it works as a sequel because the foundation is there and you do have that growth. I think it would have helped more, like I would have given a stronger check if they gave references to the first one like you were talking about, Louis, where you just acknowledge that the first one existed, right? Use that as actual motivation, like actually say it. And then that's our motivation for why the characters feel that they are. But it's interesting because I also agree that it's kind of like a throwaway movie too, to where you could watch Bad Boys 2 and never see Bad Boys 1, and you can kind of still understand like what's going on with this movie. So for those reasons, I give it a check, but I still acknowledge like, what you're saying about it. So that sounds like it's going to get 2 checks and an X to start off. So the second question is going to be, is it enjoyable / entertaining? And Louis, since you're our guest, you can start off this one as well.
100%. I mean, I think we covered this throughout. And even, I know that I gave it an X for the sequel, but even some of the lines that they use again and just like sort of switched them up a little bit. But like the end of the movie when he shoots, the Tapia in the head, and he's just like, that's how you shoot. From now on, that's how you shoot. He says the exact same line, except that's how you drive. From now on, you drive like that. So it's like those little things added to it for me, even though I gave it an X for kind of be counted as a sequel. But I mean, throughout the movie, it's high action. Yes, sometimes you don't know what the hell is going on, but it's constantly entertaining you. It's doing something. There's never any like low swings where there's nothing happening.
Yeah, I'll make it quick and I'll say I also think it's enjoyable / entertaining. It's interesting that you bring up low swings because I would say that there are more attempts for low swings in the second one because when you don't have those transitions in between like big action set piece and then conversation that's dramatic and then comedic thing, it does make you feel a little like, all right, let's go. Let's move on. Like, let's get past this. It doesn't feel like we're talking about, it's the illusion that we're talking about something important. But on top of that, you do get a lot of entertainment from watching how stupid those scenes are. So it's enjoyable / entertaining just on like a normal action movie front, but then it's also enjoyable / entertaining because it's like a dumb Michael Bay movie. And there's just all this shit where it's like, Jesus, this is ridiculous. Like, you know, so you can probably only get away with that when you have two powerhouses like Will Smith and Martin Lawrence that are kind of carrying the narrative. Like we more so trust them than we trust Michael Bay when we're watching these movies. So I really don't think these movies would work if you didn't have Will Smith or Martin Lawrence as your leads. So with all that being said, I also agree. I think it's enjoyable / entertaining.
I think the same. It's not smooth, but that's the thing is even the parts that would be boring are entertaining.
Yeah.
Because of the kind of not stupid, but because of the simple way it's approached, where it's just like we've got to get the bare bones plot across. We'll have this big dinner scene where we're getting a lot of exposition across, or barbecue scene where we're getting a lot of exposition across, but we'll make it fun. We'll give the characters stuff to do. That's another thing about like the illusion of like stuff going on in this movie. Like you still have to try to get the illusion. It's not like you just like sit back, relax as a director, and the illusion just forms itself. It's like you've still got to try to get that illusion. So that effort really shines when you're watching a lot of movies like the movies we've been watching. So yeah, that's going to get a check for me.
So that sounds like it's going to get an easy 3 checks. So the last question is going to be, does it need to exist? And we'll have you go last on this one, Louis, to close it out. I will say that it does need to exist. When we're talking about action movies and when we're talking about kind of reoccurring cop tropes or just, you know, in regards to like the same kind of action movies that we always see, this is refreshing. I don't know if it's just because it's 2 black cops, but I think it's just a different perspective. They kind of put their footprint not just in cop movies, but in action movies in general. It just so happens that they are cops, but it's not reliant on them being cops. Like you could almost have these 2 guys be, you know, private investigators, and I would still watch that movie. So I do think it needs to exist because I do think it brings something to the action movie world that obviously other movies are going to imitate and do worse of, but, and you know, they're copying stuff too, but I do think that it has a place in action movie history. And I'm not upset about it. I'm not offended about it. I kind of just wish that another director was the one that started this franchise. It could have been, you know, very different. But we got Michael Bay.
This might be the first time I make the distinction where I'm glad it exists, but I don't think it needs to exist.
Oof.
It's just more of the same, dialed up. And just because you're giving character development, which I'll argue is decent, and all of these things that make a sequel good, there's not that extra. There's not anything necessarily new.
It's kind of like a cartoon special.
Yeah.
It's like a Sunday morning cartoon show where we just see the cops do something else again.
Yeah, kind of like Lethal Weapon. I don't remember if I said Lethal Weapon needs to exist or not, but
no, we voted
that
6 checks on that
Okay.
episode. But there's a lot more depth in that second movie with Lethal Weapon 2 with those characters.
Oh, there is. Yeah.
There's, like you said, there's the illusion of depth between the partners in this first one. But imagine if this second one had like a toilet scene from Lethal Weapon 2 where they share like a beat together. They have that when they're crying and they're hugging and stuff, but it's very you know, Hollywood.
It's like,
you know?
It's because there's no transition material. The 3 tones that you were talking about almost undercut themselves, where the comedy undercuts the drama, which undercuts the action, which undercuts the comedy. They try to stack those things, but you just get a Jenga tower that could have collapsed, but was held together by Will Smith and Martin Lawrence.
Yeah. And if it did collapse, you get 8 different angles of it collapsing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And watch it explode.
For me, I mean, it gets a check for me for sure. I mean, even without even getting in deep into it, it's just, I just really love this movie. And I think it's, like Matt was saying, I think it's a different kind of like buddy cop movie just because of, and it may be because that it's 2 black guys who grew up in similar situations where it's just a different kind of relationship than let's say, like Lethal Weapon. I mean, it does make a difference that they grew up kind of the same way and in the same culture. I think it adds to the type of comedy that's coming out. And I don't think that, like, every buddy cop movie was always, you know, a white guy and a black guy. Eddie Murphy, Nick Nolte, you know, Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, and so on and so forth. So I think it just brought a different dynamic that made that more possible to happen in the future. I don't know. I think it just opened doors that otherwise wouldn't have been open, especially with the second one, just because it is such a big movie, like a big budget movie with 2 black leads.
So if you're doing that math at home, that's going to be 7 checks and 2 X's, which means it's going to get 1 big giant check for worth going back again. And yeah, it makes sense. This is definitely more top tier kind of action movie sequels, even though there are still a lot of problems with it from directing and from a writing standpoint. Mostly directing, but you know, it's the performances that really kind of carry it up. It's still not the best action movie sequel on the list that we've done, or I think that we're going to continue to do, but it's definitely top shelf. All right, so that's going to be a wrap on Bad Boys 2. Special thanks to Louis for joining us today, our bad boy. Thanks so much for being here today and talking Bad Boys with us.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun.
As always, guys, thanks so much for listening. If you like this episode, make sure you follow us on all the streaming platforms and listen to our other episodes. You can also watch full episodes of this on YouTube with video. What do you think of Bad Boys 2? Make sure you like, subscribe, and that you comment below. A special shout out to Neely for doing our intro and our outro song. And once again, special thanks to Louis for coming by and being a bad boy. But outside of that, we're just going to keep trucking along on this action movie list. And you got anything else to add, Drew?
We'll be back.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next week.
I'm back again.
And then the last thing I just want to bring up is that P. Diddy is an executive producer on this movie. And I don't know if you noticed this, but they play Shake Your Tail Feather like 4 to 5 times.
That's the first song that they play when like they're panning into him in the pool the first time.
But not only do they use that song so many times, they put it in so many different places in the movie that aren't even like totally consistent. I just imagine P. Diddy being like DJ Khaled, like in the editing bay. He's like, another one, put it in again, put the song in again.
What's the job description? Oh, you two.
You just remember one thing, my friend. I may not always be here. What's up, Ice Pick?
It's a righteous bust.
I came all the way to Cuba for this. Come on.